So recently Shonen Jump posted the one shot we were waiting for. It was behind the genius Tatsuki Fujimoto, the creator behind Chainsawman. So I was already excited for starting the one shot. Honestly, at first, I thought it was going to be something to do with Chainsaw Man or something around it, but I was wrong as this was completely different. This was more of a drama slice of life series about two girls doing manga. It was unexpected, but this was actually way better than I actually expected, as Fujimoto needs to chill with these series, because at first we got the brilliant Chainsaw Man, of course Fire Punch earlier, and now this, even though it's completely different from the other two, he needs to chill because these are all fire. Anyway, let's talk about the chapter where we start off with showing a full panel manga strip in a newspaper, and it was done by this young girl named Fujino, who appears to be the protagonist of the one shot, as she was getting praised by her work despite the little amount of detail there, but was also called by the teacher to tell her about Kiyomoto, a student who can't come to school but wants to try manga as well. And she took that as a joke first, but when she saw the paper next day, she looked so surprised as Kiyomoto's work was twice as better than hers, where this was actually a manga style background and hers was like a doodle. Hearing everyone else praise that person's work and saying it's much better than hers, she was filled with jealousy, so she ran to the bookstore, get a sketchbook, search up tutorials, and try to improve her art. She just kept drawing and drawing. Seasons kept changing as she kept improving her art. Then 2 years later, she was confronted by a friend saying she was getting too old to draw, but in reality, she was too focused on manga instead of her social life. She was put down, and then one day next, she gave it up and continued her social life. Then, the day of graduation came, and she was told to give Kiyomoto's graduation certificate as a final request from the teacher. So she went to her house, she went in, and saw a hallway full of sketchbooks. That panel was actually one of my favorites, as it just felt so surreal, looking at all those amount of sketchbooks there, and on this like long big hallway. She slips a manga strip under the door and tried to leave, but then all of a sudden, Kyoto came outside calling her sensei, which is, a way of respecting someone, and turns out she was a big fan. She just kept praising her work and asking for autograph, as she was some kind of like big time mangaka, and this was sort of like the beginning of the relationship, which transitioned to her dancing in the rain with joy. That was filled with like a very wholesome moments for her, as she's finally met someone who's just like her, and that's where their friendship started. Where then we transition later into Fujino, which she's in middle school now, and we just keep seeing panels of them working together season by season, month by month, creating manga. It was really wholesome for them. Then one day they showed their work to Shueisha, which they were impressed, and the next moment was them entering the convenience store in the middle of a wintry night, and they won the manga contest and earned money for it. Now, of course, I added money part because they went out of town to celebrate, which we saw panels of them enjoying their day, enjoying their lives and that. Then the story progresses as they keep building up the manga stuff and that, and turns out one day they get serialized for their work. But all of a sudden, there was just like this awkward presence, and turns out Kiyomoto said she wanted to go to art school to Fujino. She didn't believe it, as she knew her so well. She couldn't agree with that, as this was sort of where the duo has split, and the convo ended with this panel, which transitioned to Fujino as an actual famous mangaka. She had her own series, Shark Kick, and it was popular enough to get an anime after probably 11 volumes. Then one day, all of a sudden, there was an attack by an art school. He was a maniac, and turns out it was the same school Kiyomoto was attending. As soon as she saw that, Fujino was hesitating, as she was filled with fear, trying to call people. She was so scared, and then she just realized it was Kiyomoto who died. After that, she put her work on hiatus, visited Kyo's household, and saw a manga strip from back then. She just fell to the floor, blaming herself for her death. At that moment, we also get a glimpse of Kiyomoto as if she never met her. It was all basically the same, especially that moment with the maniac. And just before he attacked, Fujimoto kicked the guy and was later on an ambulance. We then go back to the future and Fujimoto saw a final manga strip like Yo from what we just seen, and we also saw her autograph. She remembered the days with her which brought her to tears and ends up her giving the motivation to carry on, and she left the room with such an intense back and high spirits, and she just continued her life as a mangaka. This one shot was insane. It was so deep and reflects the friendships where you meet the person, you become very close, distant each other, and then ends up with regret. But it also gives us a glimpse of life of a person at a young age becoming a mangaka. It was sort of wholesome, at the beginning, but it was really hard and stressful, which helps us remind us the difficulty of becoming and living as a mangaka. So please respect all their work and everything else. And we're gonna leave the video right there. Thank you all for watching today. This one shot was brilliant. For Takushi Fujimoto sensei, thank you for blessing us with another work. Even if it's just one chapter, it was still great. Hopefully I can see more of Chainsawman soon. And I can't wait for everything else. Thank you and sayonara.